December 16th, meeting of the Aurora Housing Authority to order. Roll call.
Bill Powell,
Present.
Melanie Wembley,
Here.
Ray Cruz,
Here.
Scott Boris,
Here.
Dave Richard,
Here.
Mariana Hill,
Here.
Anthony Sanford,
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of November 18th, 2015.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Public comments? None. Review of financials?
For the month of November, the Housing Authority did have a loss of about $92,000. For the year to date, at that point in time, leaves it with about $120,000 net profit. And what happened in November, HUD decided to give us one last little kick before the end of the year and shorted us about $150,000 in half for our Section 8 program. So that's where the loss comes from. It's just one last little thing for the end of the year. It looks like from the projections for next year's budget, as some of you might know, there's been a new federal bill passed, so will actually be more money for Section 8 program next year. So we're hoping that that trickles down into, basically at least getting 100% of the money that we're owed every year. But again, we still made it through. We still have $120,000 net profit for the year to date, so we're still doing okay. In the public housing program, we had about $5,000 net loss, which, considering the size of the loss for the month, is much better than you would have normally expected, since the loss was in the Section 8 program. It helps a lot for the public housing program. I think the Section 8 program for the month had a $85,000 net loss. So even though we lost a larger portion of our revenues, we still cut costs where we needed to kind of make the month work out a little bit better. Are there any questions on that?
When they do something like that, is it just like you come in one day and you see the memo and it's there, or do you get prepped at all that this is coming? How's that work?
It's usually lately it's been about a 3 to 5 day head start. So they'll let us know, they usually let us know what we're gonna get on the first of the following month on about the 5th day before that. So it's not a lot of time to kind of go shifting around, but we kind of keep an ongoing dialogue to try and help with that so that we kind of just know where we stand too.
And do they determine how much they're gonna take out of Aurora based on just the size of Aurora's housing authority, or based on the success of, the profitability of the housing authority?
It's based on the profitability. They see the fact that we have what's called NRA or it's non-restricted assets, which is basically reserve cash that we haven't spent from previous years. They feel that when they see that amount, they say, okay, well, we can short them that because they have that to that kind of cushion there. Mm-hmm. Essentially what it does is they're in the process of transferring dollars from basically our bank accounts to theirs. So what's happening is all these shortfalls, the money doesn't theoretically go away. It's on their books as money for us that we can, if we need to, go to them, send an email and say, hey, I don't have enough money for January, for example. I need $200,000, and they'll send it to us. But the challenge is I don't like having my money in your bank account. I want my money in my bank account. So it's just a shifting really of the assets.
Right.
Any questions? Departmental reports?
So we're running into the end of the year.
I'm sorry. Just one question real quick. So when you make, obviously you make cuts to make the losses less, is what I heard you say. So how do you determine where those cuts come from as far as spending goes?
It depends on what's really available. I mean, we look at certain months and we say, okay, we know a little bit in advance how many people may be terminating off the program that month, so maybe we don't release those vouchers. So that saves some of the money. Other times we look at what we're spending money on throughout the month and say, okay, well, let's hold back on some of these planned upgrades to computers or upgrades to office spaces or things that we're going to do of that nature too. So it's kind of a combination. Every month we shave off. So many people fall off the program either voluntarily or because of non-compliance. So sometimes we just don't put that voucher back out on the street.
But how much does that save by not putting the voucher back up?
It depends. It can be $1,300. It can be $5,000 or not $5,000, $500. I apologize. But most of that stuff comes from the operational side. So we're looking at just normal things that we might have been planning on doing that we just don't do.
Welcome.
Any other questions?
Departmental?
So we're getting close to the end of the year. We've got kind of two things that happen towards the end of the year. The first being which our budget process is beginning. So as you know, every year we have to start our new fiscal year, which starts in April with a new budget. So I'll be going through the process of going department to department and really tying down the things that we're going to work on for next year and identifying the funding sources and what we're going to spend the dollars on. We're going to try a different approach a little bit this year. We've in the past, we've kind of gotten that out to the board in about February, with about 30 days before we bring it for approval. We're going to try and get it out at least at the beginning of February, and then have a few sessions throughout the month of February where board members can actually come, sit down, ask questions about what you're seeing in that budget report, so that you'll have more information when it comes time for the March approval. So that's just one change that we're going to have as far as the budget process. The other year-end thing is the audit. They just completed the audit. Actually, I'm waiting. I think I'll probably get tomorrow draft final statements. They'll go in before the end of the year. So once we get that report in, obviously we'll get that out to the board as well. Just keep in mind, this report covers the time frame from April 1st of 2014 to March 31st of 2015. So it's really only 3 months of this calendar year that are going to be reflected in those reports. If you look back at our April financial reports that were sent out to the board, it'll show that we projected about a $386,000 net loss for that particular fiscal year. The auditors sent me just a little kind of glimpse at the final numbers, and it looks like it'll be about a $311,000 audited final loss. So obviously that's better than what we had projected, and it's probably just due to some reallocations that they had. But at the end of the day, I think it just shows that the things that we do report in these financials are accurate. That you can count on these to kind of hold true at the end of an audit period. Other than that, one other thing, we started work, and I think we're just about done now, Carlos. And I think we're pretty much done with our Eastwood Community Center. So they've done new floors, new cabinets, basically all new fixtures. We're going to get some new furniture in the center, but it's going to be looking good. We're hoping to have that ready. I think tomorrow it'll be ready to, not fully ready, but so go ahead.
Well, the countertops didn't arrive on time, probably, but it's gonna be the floors done, the countertops are in place, all the painting, looks really nice. It's gonna look very, very nice.
Very nice.
So that's as we mentioned, we want to start pushing some of these upgrades out to our, to the communities, better community centers, and this will be the first one that we've completed. So it'll be good to kind of see, and then we hope to do the same thing we've done with some of our other projects and start to pare down costs and make it a little bit more efficient. So we're excited about that. Other than that, we're really excited. It's the end of the year, so we want to thank the board for all your support throughout the year, and wish you guys a happy Christmas and happy New Year as well.
Thank you. Will there be like a grand opening out there at the Eastwood, or gonna have any kind of function?
We're debating because it's wintertime whether or not it'll work, but we probably will do something. Just
okay.
We want to get people out in the community.
Sure. Okay. Great.
Are there any questions? Maria she had to be out. She has a family issue. Is there any questions regarding her report? No. Sue? Your turn.
Okay, for section 8, Housing Choice Voucher Program, for the month of November, we had 62 recertifications that we were working in, completed 32, we processed 33 rent adjustments, reissued 23 families vouchers, families that were boarding in or moving from their current unit. We sent 3 families to other housing authorities. We completed 14 lease-ups. We did 12 initial move-in inspections, 48 annual inspections, 16 re-inspections. We had 5 terminations. 3 families were absorbed by other housing authorities. 2 voluntarily ended their assistance. We had 1 repayment agreement signed for $920. Our total vouchers now, the project-based, are 7. We have 17 veteran vouchers that are leased and 850 housing choice vouchers. Any questions?
Are we getting enough veterans to use those vouchers?
Mhm.
Are there plenty of?
We have 17 right now, and I got a call from Heinz today. They're sending me 2 more within the next couple weeks, and we still have, I think, 3 or 4 that we're billing decal for.
Okay.
So, yeah. So
And
we're
how
doing
many
pretty good.
available total are there in that?
25.
there any other questions for Sue? And it's the holiday, so I allowed Jimmy to take some vacation time, so.
What?
So are there any questions on Jimmy's report?
Just remind me on going back to the Franciscan, where are those facilities?
One
Carroll
is,
Stream and like West Plaza?
yes, those are the two we have now. We were negotiating now. There've been some changes. They are potentially selling their properties, all of their Midwestern properties, to Mercy Housing. So that doesn't change anything for us. We're still the administrator, but right now we were in the middle of negotiating administration for a property in Batavia and Wheaton as well. This new sale will probably affect that some, so we'll have to see kind of where that goes. But right now, yes, Carroll Street and Ryder Street there.
And how many units are in that?
225 here in Aurora, and 284 in Carroll Street.
For us administering that, you don't have to go anywhere, you're just doing all the paperwork for stuff, correct?
The development company does the administration. They do have people that travel. That's the main reason that, like for example, Carroll Stream, we really wouldn't have had that otherwise. So yes, we provide, or they provide, two staff who basically are at those sites who are doing the research. It's still paperwork, but they're doing that paperwork, yes.
No license.
Yes. Anything else? No, sir?
Other business, on-site, on-site review updates?
So December was a little bit slow, so there's nothing substantial. Obviously, the procurement policy was tabled, so that'll be another old business item from last month. I just had Commissioner Wimley sign the document that will change our information with HUD as far as our banking is concerned. So we're still moving forward with all the things that we say. We just don't have anything new to present this month.
Resolution 2015-11, improvement of procurement policy.
So as you remember from last month, we presented procurement policy as part of the on-site reviews, but also just because it's something that needed to be updated. We followed basically word for word almost the HUD recommended language for that policy. I think the only change that we made was that we added a line that required that any business that would be transacted or potentially transacted between us and our closely held organizations had to go through a legal review before a contract could be awarded. That's really the only different language between the two. I know that you guys want to discuss that a little bit from the last meeting, so if there are any questions.
Yeah, nothing. No, I don't have a question on that.
No more questions? No questions? Okay.
I make a motion we approve resolution 15-13.
1511.
I'm sorry, 1511.
The motion is second. Any further questions? If none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I think we're probably going to table this next one. Approval of salary change for executive director. As you all know, Dave and I sat down with Keith a little over a month ago, I guess, and discussed his evaluation with him. And we also, as a board, talked about that in executive session. So basically, what was recommended is what I think we need to take action on. I think our recommendation, if I remember correctly, was somebody, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was 4% raise this year?
40, the zero, you've got zero.
Yeah. Yes.
I remember, and that wasn't it.
Yeah, 4% raise for this year, and I think we just have to vote on that to reflect that. And for 1 year, we open it again next year. So if I can have a motion, if everybody's in agreement.
Second.
So motion seconded, any questions? No questions?
So we're not doing it, there's no update to the contract, it's just a wage increase at this point. So there's a multi-year contract already.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? It's been motioned and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Don't get comfortable.
You're here, I can never be comfortable.
New business, resolution 2015-13, approval of the 2016 annual plan submission.
So once a year, the Housing Authority essentially has to submit a document to HUD that outlines very, very broadly any major changes that we're making to either our administrative plan for our Section 8 program or our continued occupancy plan for our public housing program. This document has to be submitted to HUD, but as part of that submission, there's a certification from the board that essentially explains that you guys have seen it and do at least agree in principle with the plan. Commissioner Vorse had asked that we kind of walk through the attachment that I gave you guys in the email. So I don't know how many of you have it with you, but I'll just kind of explain. Essentially, this document, it outlines a couple of things very broadly. One, how many units we have. Two, whether or not we're planning on adding any units or taking away any units. And then three, any major changes we're planning to make to any of our programs, policy-wise, or as far as how we're going to do, for example, when we change the income tiering plan or any of those kinds of major policy changes. They have to be presented to HUD so that they can approve them. In this plan, essentially the only major change was essentially a proposed draft language for putting term limits on the amount of time families could stay in public housing. We discussed this at a previous board meeting. We had to put it in front of HUD in order for the board to ever have really any effective discussion about that. So if you recall, I think probably during the strategic plan discussion, we discussed putting some manner of term limit on how long people can receive the assistance, whether that be 7 years, 10 years, or whatever. So we put that language in the administrative plan so that if we decide at whatever point during the next 12 months that we want to enact that we actually have gotten HUD's approval in order to do so. This doesn't mean that we're obligated to do it. It doesn't mean that we're taking that step January 1st or anything like that. The board still has to approve that individually, and whether you do or not is up to you, but that language is in here. I think that's the biggest change in here as far as change of policy of any kind. The only other option, the things in here, the attachments, it does list, for example, a 5-year update to how we're planning to spend our capital funds. Essentially, we take $1 million and spread it out evenly between each one of the categories. It's not binding. It just allows HUD to fund us basically each year. That's the document they use to put the funding together. I guess, are there any questions?
So this second section, 7.0, there's 3 paragraphs. Can you just go through those?
Sure. So basically, paragraph 1, we talked about, it talks about 3 properties that we were going to dispose of. If you recall, back during 2014, we came to the board with approval and then went to HUD and received approval to sell off 3 properties. One of those properties was a property at Bowditch, one property is on Dayward Court, and one is on Kendall Court. The Bowditch property was sold, if you remember, last year to Association for Individual Development. We still own the other 2. This phrase in here allows us to sell the other 2. The board already basically gave us approval to sell them. We just, again, need to remind HUD that we're selling them so that they don't take away our disposition approval. Essentially, that's the first paragraph, is just covering the sale of those 2 properties. The second paragraph is our Brenshaw initiative. Again, just putting that in, and that we are actively involved in that project. We are continuing to pursue scattered site development activity. So that's letting HUD know that we're going to be continually bringing those kinds of development projects to them. The third item is we've talked about, historically anyway, we've talked about converting our public housing stock into Section 8 stock through the project-based voucher program. The third paragraph basically, again, informs HUD that we are pursuing or at least looking into those kinds of activities, and we may at some point in time decide to do that. Again, with all of these, the board can at any time either decide to do them or not to do them. Those conversations are basically, with the exception of the disposition, you've already approved that, but for the other 2, we don't have to do any more scattered sites, or we can continue to do those projects as they're presented. Same thing with the project-based conversion. So it's basically a framework document for HUD that says these are the things that we're proposing to do, or we're thinking about doing, we're having these conversations about. That way HUD knows that if we bring this up next year in May and say, you know what, we want to do another, you know, scatter site project. Well, HUD can't look and say, well, you didn't tell us anything about it. This informs them that we're.
So it's like a pre-approval.
Pretty much, yeah.
So when you, thanks, so when you, it mentions specifically the Fox Prairie Homes,
Mhm.
you know, but is the rest of the kind of fine print there, is that a lot, when we go and say we wanna do another one, doesn't mean that they're absolutely gonna approve it, right? It just means that, that's right, are we just, it's like you're just telegraphing kind of where we're going?
Exactly. It's more of a vision document for us, especially with that particular section that's saying, these are the things that we have as an agency are interested in, these are the things that we are likely to pursue. We're still gonna have to go for a million, not I won't say a million, but a lot of approvals in that process. So once we say, let's say we wanna do Fox Prairie Home Part 2, you guys have to approve it, then we still have to go back to HUD for them to actually approve that specific project versus the more broad approval that they would give us here.
Okay, so like the St. Charles Hospital or whatever the name of that hospital that we're working on?
Yeah, it has its own specific approval. I actually just got the letter in the mail today.
And does the third paragraph give HUD any pause in terms of redistributing, public housing to Section 8 housing, or is that?
No, that's a fairly normal thing now. It's part of the RAD conversion program, and a lot of housing authorities are doing it. We've avoided it mainly because we wanted to build our own internal capacity before we try to do development deals. And you know, we've talked about kind of where we went wrong with the Jericho project. I think part of that was just a lack of internal development knowledge. We just, you know, we didn't have it. So doing the conversions is something people do all the time. It's not a very complicated process, but again, it has to be in there if you ever want to do it.
Okay. And then there was and this is just small, I was just kind of curious, had the number of public housing units and they had the number of HCV units.
Mm-hmm.
The HCV units said 893. And we're currently like 850, so how do we get to like 893 is the magic number to put in there?
893 is basically the total available vouchers that we have. So we're allowed to lease up 893 vouchers.
Okay.
What's keeping us from that is the money. It's the only reason we're not at 893.
Understood.
But that number is just basically, those are the vouchers that have been given to us in total. Right.
Question. The two houses that we haven't sold, how come we haven't sold them?
The process requires that we sell them at their appraised value, and it's a HUD appraisal. So they're appraised at what we found in the marketplace to just not be a price that people are interested in, and the houses do require a lot of work. I mean, there's a reason we don't want them. You know, so they're requiring a lot of work. When we started that process, we did do a full RFP, put them out, and we had some people come in and say, hey, we buy these properties, but we're not going to pay. I think the appraised value on both of the properties is $35,000. And everybody who came back said, yeah, we'll buy them, but we'll buy them for 20 or 25. Nobody wants to pay 35 for them. As a result, we've just kind of been stuck with them.
Where do we go from here? I mean, are we gonna have?
Are they on the market, or do you sell them, like, are they on?
They're not listed on the where what did we do at that time? We did an RFP, and I think we did have. I have to look to see exactly what we did, because I don't remember if we actually had a realtor actually go through that process, but I doubt it, though. I think we just followed the HUD process. So we talked at one point in time, and we'd have to come back to that conversation about selling to the development company at the $35,000, and then letting the development company figure out what to do with them. That way, at least it gets us the money, gets them out of our hair on this end. The other option is I think Dave was kind of alluding to, I guess, is having an actual realtor try and sell them at $35,000. That's also a viable option too.
My point is being that, you know, it's just sitting there, it's not doing us any good. You know,
Yeah,
we're not-
exactly.
If we're not actively, you know, trying to get rid of it, you know, I mean,
And they're getting worse every day.
well, that's,
Exactly,
I mean, there's,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I mean, one has a lot of mold issues. I think the other has, I won't say foundation issues, but like seepage issues. So, I mean, they're not easy to, I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who can grab them up and fix them. We just need to find that guy or girl.
And if we advertise, maybe, I mean, do a realtor, maybe we can, maybe there's somebody out there, I don't know, but I think we need to sort of move on that instead of just letting them sit there for another 2 or 3 years. I think that's what serves everyone.
Sure, let me look at them.
Absolutely.
Any other questions on the annual plan?
Make a motion, we approve resolution 2015-13.
Second.
Motion is second, any other questions, no questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Resolution passes.
And Mr. Chairman, I will have a couple things that I need you to decide for that.
Everybody get a chance to look at the 2016 board schedules?
Looks good.
Need a motion therefore to approve those. Ma'am? Second.
I motion to approve the 2016 board meeting schedule.
Second.
So motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I just wanna make sure too that they're on the website. I'm not sure how many people go to the website, but just the listing is on there,
Of
of the meetings.
it will be, as well as we also post them, we have to post them at all the sites anyway, so we do at least put them up by the offices at each site, and then we will put on the website. as well.
I've seen them. I was just looking for it on the website.
I was trying to gift it to.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I don't know
It's
if
a really nice pen.
we have anything, if we have anything this round for executive session. If not, I just personally like to wish everybody a very happy holiday season, a safe one. And, I want to take a motion to adjourn.
I will move that we adjourn, but do you guys, so apparently we're going to the commissioners conference, so we'll have to get together and kind of come up with a game plan for that. Is any, are you going or any?
No, it's the commissioners conference, so.
It is just straight up.
Just for you guys.
So is there anything that the other board members want us to come back with specifically from that, or,
Sober.
I mean,
It is
Maybe,
Miami.
can we allow a little time in the January meeting, just, cause you did that last year where you reported out on an item, or maybe it was chief,
Yeah.
and that was,
oh yeah, we'll come back with.
Yeah, they can be on the agenda.
I always think it's, I mean, if we're gonna go somewhere, we'll come back with the report, but I'm just curious if there was like specific things, like, hey, just, let us know if you guys think anything.
Keith,
Yes, sir.
there's another one of those too, right?
There are conferences all year long. The FADA Commissioners Conference is probably the premier Commissioners Conference. There are others throughout the year. I know Commissioner Richard came to the Nelrod Conference, I think last year, year before.
Yeah.
So there are others that have commissioner tracks that you can go on. This one is specific to commissioners, and so everything is kind of tailored that way.
Can you get us a list of other ones that are offered throughout the year, so we
Absolutely.
can figure out how to get to those?
Sure.
That's part of our duties.
Yeah, there's a really nice one at Star Rock.
Yeah. I think I'm booked.
What might also be helpful is to, do they have a list of different agencies that are signed up or going? And I'm just curious if we could kind of get a list of attendees that are maybe our size agency, that way we can try to kind of network with those people.
We can add, I don't know if they'll share that, but I'll certainly send the email and see what we can get.
When you, just trying to, when you arrived at it, I thought they gave you a list
Of
of
other,
the agencies that are attending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll find out. Yeah, absolutely.
Find out, if not, no biggie, but
Sure.
might be helpful.
First meeting in January is when?
January 27th.
27th, okay.